Hello everyone, and welcome to another Chamber Chat session. Thank you for joining us inside the Chattanooga Chambers Connection Conference Center, powered by EPB. As always, I'm your host, Sharon Law, Business Development Manager at Thompson Engineering and Public Policy Chair for your Chamber of Commerce. Sitting next to me today is our guest, Butch Eley, the Deputy Governor and Commissioner for the Tennessee Department of Transportation, or TDOT. He's the top advisor to Governor Bill Lee and manages infrastructure investments across the state. He's a Belmont University graduate and is visiting us from Brentwood, Tennessee. Commissioner, welcome to Chattanooga and welcome to the show. Let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah.
We're here today to discuss the Transportation Modernization Act. So let's talk about all the whys. Why this proposal, and why is it good for Tennessee, and why is now the right time?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Sharon, for having us, and I want to thank the Chamber for having us. And this is a very important issue, obviously, and so very happy to be here and be with you today. So, I think most of us, some of you heard me say that. We are at a very critical stage as it relates to transportation in Tennessee. Transportation is one of those services that we have as a state that every single person is impacted every day. And we have done congestion studies throughout the state, all over the state. And I think most people in Chattanooga would agree that we need to do something about trying to make transportation life better in the Chattanooga area. And so that's what we're trying to do. That's the reason the governor has presented his Transportation Modernization Act. And so we're excited about the possibilities of where we're headed with that. We know that there's a lot of things that we need to do as it relates to that. And so we're excited about the why, as you said, because we know that right now in Tennessee, as it relates to how long it takes to get from one major city to another, that we could be looking to up to an hour longer between cities to be able to get to where we're going. We know that a lot of the commutes around this area in Chattanooga will take much longer if we don't do something now. And so I think we've got a lot of things happening, from the age of the infrastructure to the recognition that our current gas tax will not sustain what we need to be able to do in the future, that we need to do something now to make things better for the traveling public in the Chattanooga area and throughout the state of Tennessee.
A recent TDOT report shows that the growing population is outpacing the roadways.
Yeah.
Anyone that travels on our roads in Tennessee knows that. And you mentioned Governor Lee's proposed $3 billion budget. Where is this money going specifically, and how will it benefit our area?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Sharon. And I think that we certainly recognize that when we're thinking about the future of our investments in Tennessee, the governor has proposed more dollars into transportation than we ever had before. And so that's a recognition that we need to do something about where we are now. And so one of the things that he has said is that we want to make sure that we don't raise taxes and we don't take on new debt as part of this process. And so what he is proposing is to do public-private partnerships which will allow us to partner with the private sector to be able to get new investment into Tennessee, to be able to do additional investment, which will allow us to be able to invest in and reallocate a lot of the current dollars into being able to do projects that we would not normally be able to do in this area and across Tennessee.
So you mentioned the public-private partnership, and I know this bill authorizes the state to contract with private companies to do that. Are there any concerns surrounding foreign companies?
Yeah, well, that's a great question as well. I mean, first of all, we've been contracting and partnering with the private sector for 100 years in how we build out our transportation system. So this is really nothing new. What's different about this is the financing aspect of this, because what we are asking these public-private partnerships to do is to step up and say they will also finance the building of these roadways. And it will give our Chattanooga residents and our Tennessee residents a choice to be able to say they will get into these additional lanes to be able to choose to say they want to get to where they're going faster. But all of the existing lanes are still going to be there. We are not selling anything to any outside entity. The state of Tennessee will always own our roadways. We always have, we always will. And we would just be entering into a relationship to where they would also design, build, finance, operate, and maintain, but we would always be in control of those facilities.
I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot, but can you explain to us the difference between a choice lane and a toll road?
That's a great question too. So the traditional, I mean, if some folks have driven in different parts of the country, this is not your traditional toll lane. These are choice lanes for a reason. I appreciate you using that term, in that it is entirely an option. So if you're driving down the road, you're able to stay in the regular lane that we have always had, or you're able to get into this choice lane and be able to get to where you're going at a guaranteed speed, so that you know where you're going and you're going to be able to get there in a certain amount of time. And so that's the major difference. We're not going to toll from a point A to a point B to where that's the only way you get there is to pay the toll. You'll always have an option to be able to get there without paying that toll. And this is purely an option and a choice for every Tennessean and every Chattanoogan.
If the bill is passed, how quickly do you think they'll be built, and where?
Well, so right now we're asking for the authority of the legislature to do this. And so we haven't figured out the exact mile marker to mile marker exactly where these are going to be. We're asking for the authority to do that. We want to make sure that we don't get ahead of our legislature in doing that. But once we do that, we'll figure out the most opportune places, the most optimized places through Tennessee and then Chattanooga to be able to do that. It'll be in our urbanized area, but that will allow us to invest in our more suburban and rural areas as well.
The bill also proposes an annual registration fee for electric vehicles. Can you talk to me about the math behind this decision?
Yeah, well, we all know that all of our cars have much better gas mileage now than what they did years ago. And we also know that in the future, we're going to have more and more electric vehicles. And so this is a recognition of that. This is a plan for how we get to the future. And right now, an electric vehicle is paying a $100 fee, where the typical average gas combustion engine car in Tennessee is paying around $274 per year. And so what we're trying to do is eventually get that on parity. And so we're going to kind of scale that in over time. But that's what we're trying to do, is to be able to recognize that as we move to the evolution of electric vehicles, that those electric vehicles will be paying something similar to what we're paying now on the gas engines.
As you know, Chattanooga has a deep history of railways. Can we expect a passenger rail connecting Nashville, Chattanooga, and Atlanta soon?
Well, so I don't know how soon it'll be, but the department has already submitted a letter to the federal government to say we support and are very interested in determining how we can move forward in that process. We're working with them, we're talking to them, and we're talking with the city. Here, we want to make sure that we have a multifaceted, multimodal approach to our transportation system in Tennessee, and that certainly could be a part of it, and we welcome that, and we're all in and trying to figure out how to best proceed with that as we work with our partners in the federal government.
Okay. With that, we close another Chamber Chat session. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our viewers at home. To learn more about our Department of Transportation, visit tn.gov/TDOT. And one more time, let's thank our guest with a round of applause.